Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So my name is Mary, and today I'm going to be going over 10 signs of spiritual enlightenment or spiritual awakening. So the reason why this is so important to me is because it's one of the only ways that I've been able to understand my journey in life. So I've definitely tried to do a little bit of digging and finding out like why, and if not why things are happening, like what is going on, what is actually going on, and trying to find more meaning in life. And I feel like that's a lot of the issue today is, people aren't looking for meaning in life, and if they are, they're confused and they don't know what is what. Like, I know a lot of people confuse like spirituality with religion, and that is two totally different things. So I wanted to go over these things and just talk a little bit about each sign of spiritual enlightenment or spiritual awakening. So spiritual awakening or awakened is defined as spiritually aware of the universe and its direct metaphysical connection to one's own being and the connection it has to all life forces. So I wanted to give you guys a list of the signs of a spiritual enlightenment or a spiritual awakening. So basically, the definition of awakened means spiritually aware of the universe and its direct metaphysical connection to one's own being and the connection it has to all life forces. One of the things I've always had an issue with is like it says here, it says one of the problems with the ideas of spiritual awakening is the lack of a clear definition, and that couldn't be more true. So it says, what exactly is a spiritual awakening, and is there any way you can tell if you're having one? And of course, if you guys know anything about spirituality at all, there's a guy named Deepak Chopra, and he is very enlightened, and he's definitely a philosopher, or he's basically a spiritual guru. It says, according to Deepak Chopra, awakening happens when you are no longer living in a dream world where you filter everything through your ego and focusing on the future and the past. It says, instead you have an almost instantaneous awareness of your individual self and the connection between that and everything else. I feel like that was a part of my life as like a drug addict was, I struggled to connect with others, and not to mention, like, not only struggled with it, I didn't want to connect with others. In ways I did, but then in a lot of ways I also didn't, and I felt a lot better isolating and feeling more alone than connected. Take, for example, the metaphor of a wave in the ocean. You are the wave and you are the ocean. The ability to maintain both separation and connection seems to indicate a different level of spiritual evolution. So basically, faith, it says, if when you look across faith traditions, there's a common thread that describes this state as nirvana, enlightenment, or awakening. This consciousness happens when you stop being the observer and instead you ask yourself who is observing. And that's deep. That's very deep. The number one sign that you're going through a spiritual awakening is observing your patterns. When you start to notice like things that you're doing in your everyday life and how that fits together with life in general. Especially, I used to think about this a lot, driving back and forth to work and stuff. It's like you're like almost on autopilot, like it's just what you do. You know how to get there, you know how to get back, and a lot of times you don't even remember the trip home or to work. And if that's not the case for you, it is for me. So feeling a sense of connection. You find yourself taking interest in your community. You try on the perspective of someone whom you've previously had differences with. Perhaps you start asking why they wear a burqa or have tattoos rather than judging them. You have a heightened awareness of the creatures you share the planet with. Number 3 is letting go of attachment. So one of the things that I have had to learn in recovery is learning to detach and detach with love. So attachment is in my opinion, one of the things that I struggled with most was detaching and letting things happen the way that they were meant to happen. I usually found myself trying to stop certain things from happening, but in that process I actually made things happen. Somewhat like the law of attraction. The more you focus on something, the more consuming it can be. Finding inner peace. So I never knew what that meant before, and matter of fact, I always thought it was like cliche and annoying. So finding inner peace for me, that's definitely a sign of spiritual awakening. So even if you're searching for it, if you're searching for peace, inner peace, you just want some like serenity and like calm, cool, clean like energy, I feel like that's a part of a spiritual awakening. Number 5, increasing your intuition. So I have always basically been guilty of knowing information and not doing anything with the information. So I have very strong intuition. However, I've allowed myself to like get distracted by other things like purposefully in order for me to be able to continue to do things I know are not for me. Number 6. Having synchronicity. I feel like that's a huge one, because when you start to notice that, like, say you were thinking about this or thinking about that, and then here it comes, like actual things in life that show up unexpectedly. 7, increasing your compassion, removing the fear of death. So that's another thing for me. I haven't really feared death, which is disturbing, you know what I mean? Death has not been a fear, honestly. If anything, it was more like an obsession. That's just for me. So as an addict, I was definitely like heading in that direction on purpose. Number 9, increasing authenticity. So if you're basically starting to see that like you cannot function around people or things that don't help build you up, or is constantly like sucking energy from you, then you're more than likely having a spiritual awakening. Number 10, flourishing, and that's basically taking everything that you've learned up until this point and using it for the greater good of humanity. So like for me, I've loved the idea of helping people for so long. Like when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a counselor, a family counselor. And that continued to be my dream. It continued to be something that I wanted to do, was help people. And, I've worked in nursing homes. I've worked just taking care of people and stuff like that, but taking care of MRDD patients. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I've straightened my life up and I've straightened things out, and I'm ready to help other people who need it. Flourishing is something that definitely connects with the entire like spiritual awakening, spiritual enlightenment. Even if you don't know those words or you haven't ever like thought about like what is this driving force that's working in my life, it's spirituality, and it's something that that you shouldn't take for granted. I know that for me, all of the lessons that I've learned in life up until this point have been very interesting. Like, did I like going through those things? No. But that's just my experience. My experience with spiritual awareness and enlightenment has been, finding myself through traumatic, very destructive. I really do. I think that all of those things play a part in how I became the woman that I am today. And I'm very proud of that. If you think that you're going through a spiritual awakening, don't be afraid. I mean, what I was mentioning about like the way that my life ended up panning out, I would say that I went through the dark night of the soul. And if you don't know what the dark night of the soul is, I've talked about it on my Facebook. I'm going to make another video talking about the dark night of the soul and talking a little bit more in depth about what that feels like, what that looks like, and what you can do about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully you guys will subscribe and like the video. Share if you would, and like I said, don't forget to subscribe. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon.